Hello, and welcome to this brief introduction to PolicyBase. PolicyBase is an affordable on-premise solution for managing and deploying company policies, procedures, and manuals. PolicyBase is made up of 9 core modules, and access to all of those modules is controlled via customizable security roles. Authentication to PolicyBase is via single sign-on, so there's no need to store any individual passwords for each user account, and the system also supports Active Directory integration. So we're going to start off by taking you through the Audit Manager module. So this module provides you with an interface to view various information about older versions of documents in the system. So it shows you who uploaded the document, when it was uploaded, and exactly who approved the document. We've also got a brief summary of changes over here, and if you're using Microsoft Word, the system actually supports management of track changes, so you can view a copy of the document with the track changes markup from at the time that it was uploaded. The configuration module is where you configure access to, firstly, the SQL Server, and this part of the settings is actually stored in a text file, so you can just copy this to all of your client devices to save having to configure it on each. The rest of the settings is stored in the SQL database. Okay, now we have 2 authentication methods here. The one we recommend is Windows authentication, as it's the most secure, but we do also support SQL authentication. The password for the user account is stored encrypted within the config.txt file, and we obviously do not recommend using the SA account. Okay, so general settings down here, you specify the hidden location where your documents are stored in read-only format. This is just for your staff to be able to view them through PolicyBase. We have a read-only file type, which is the file type used for the end user to view the document, and the write file type, which is the file type used for modifying documents. So we recommend using PDF for read and .docx for the write file type. Here you can also configure the percentages for red, amber, and green compliance statuses which are applied to each document, and the percentage is of the total users that have viewed the document and completed a test if applicable, versus the total amount of users that are required to view it. We also have an interval for the compliance scan, which is a process which runs and notifies all users of any documents that they haven't yet read and any documents that are due for review. Our Active Directory integration settings over here, you specify a polling interval, and as I mentioned earlier, it's totally optional, and you can specify the exact organizational units that you want to poll users or groups from. The dashboard provides us with real-time data on documents, and by default users can only see documents throughout the whole system that they are a reviewer or an approver of, but there is in the customizable security roles you can allow users access to view all documents, which might be necessary for people like your HR departments. So on this interface you can either show all documents, or you can filter by certain assigned security groups. So this is showing me documents that are a member of the accounts, car holders, or development groups. So over here we have the total number of views, which is based on the users that have read and completed a test if necessary. And we can also see that this document is due for review and it's been highlighted in red. Okay, we're now going to go to the Document Manager module. This module is where you can create new documents and modify settings on existing documents. And when you create a new document through this module, it automatically puts it into the loading bay. So the loading bay is a 2-stage approval process for all new documents and for documents that have been reviewed. So here we can see for the accounts manual document, you can modify the name here, which also updates all other information in the database. The reviewer, which is the person who would review the document annually, and the approver who will be the person who signs it off. So you might have an IT manager as a reviewer or a director as the approver. The system automatically handles version control for you, but here we have a button to edit the version in case a mistake was made, primarily for new documents that have been uploaded into the system. So by default, only administrators have access to this button because change controls are all managed by the system. Exams are totally optional. You can turn them on or off using this drop-down menu. So if I show you the exam editor, we have a multiple choice questions, up to 5 questions here, and you can define the pass mark. Down at the bottom here, we can also see users that have not read the document and users who have read the document. So you'll notice there's currently no assigned security groups on this document, so both of these are empty. The classified tag, by default, this is usually set to no, but if a document is set to classified, that means it will be only accessible to users who are a member of an assigned security group. By default, all documents are accessible to all members of staff, but if you do have any confidential documents, you can restrict the access using this tag. So here you see in our collections manual, we have a lot of users that haven't yet viewed the document, and we have one user who has viewed the document. You have the option to send a personalized reminder. Usually the system scanner will automatically remind users, but if you click one of these buttons to either remind all of the users in this box or one of them, it will send a reminder personalized with your name. So it will say X user has reminded you to view this document. Okay, if we now go to the document reader, this module all staff have access to by default. So you can browse for documents either by showing the full list up here by security group, or you can just start typing a name of a document in here. Now if a user tries to open a document that is in their unread list, if there's an exam attached to it, it will bring up the exam, and upon passing the exam, they'll also have to accept terms and conditions to say that they have read and understood that version of the document. And there's a full audit trail of all of this in the database, and there's a report you can run to prove that employees passed the exam and to prove that they have accepted, that they have read and understood that version of the document. You can also see documents that you're the reviewer or approver for, and you can download a copy in the right format if you want to make changes. And by default, if you're using .docx format, it will download it with track changes enabled for you. Over here we have the document loading bay, so you can see I've got one pending approval in there, and by default you'll only see documents that you are an approver for, unless you have a custom permission allowing you access to all documents. So you can see the changes. This was a new document, so by default it just shows as first upload. You can view the document and you can actually carry on making changes to it while it's in the loading bay with track changes still enabled. And once you approve that, it will archive a copy with track changes still enabled, showing the markup. So here you can override the exam settings, and you can modify the exam which has currently been set by the reviewer. You can delete the document from the loading bay if it was uploaded by mistake, or if there's changes that you would like the reviewer to make, you can just click message reviewer and enter a brief message to them. Once you approve the document, an email will be sent to all staff that are a member of an assigned distribution group, advising them to read the policy as soon as possible. Through this interface, you can also upload documents that you are a reviewer or an approver for, and enter any changes that have been made. If we now go to the users and roles interface, and by default, if if you're using Active Directory integration, you can't create new users in here or modify distribution group membership, but you can modify certain fields which aren't pulled from Active Directory, such as the manager, department, the role, and the status. Now the status, by default, only users who are active are showed in reports and are sent notifications. So if someone has left the company, they've gone on maternity leave or long-term sick leave, for example, they won't be included in your compliance reports. You can also see documents that user hasn't read, documents where they're a reviewer or an approver over here. And down the bottom here, this is where we can manage our roles. So we have the admin role by default, which has access to everything. And you can also create custom roles. So not only do you define the permissions for the access to the interfaces, you can also take it a step further and control whether they have read or write access within those modules, and whether they can access documents that they aren't a reviewer or approver for. It will also show you over here which users are a member of that security group. Our distribution groups, so this too, if you're using Active Directory authentication, which I'm not currently in this demo, it will automatically pull the distribution groups, and you can't delete or manage them as it's a one-way sync. So here it will show you users that are assigned to the distribution group and assigned documents. And you also have the option to delete distribution groups. Our help module gives you a bit more information about all of the other modules. This too is accessible by default for all users. Okay, and that just about sums up our demonstration for today. For more information, if you go to www.policybase.co.uk or drop an email to sales@policybase.co.uk, and one of our advisors will be happy to help.